If you're ever mixing your vocals and you feel like you just can't achieve that super modern pop sounding vocals, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you exactly how you can take your vocals from this.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh, I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
To this.
Are you serious?
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh, I'm waiting here, I'm not scared. As long as you're by me, tear me apart, yeah, tear me apart, yeah.
So yeah, what's up guys? As I just said, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to mix your vocals to achieve those very modern pop sounding vocals. So let's get right to it. Before we get into the video though, if you're into the idea of improving your vocals and really creating an industry ready sound, then you should go check out my website. I have 3 available vocal presets. One of them is completely free, being the Caleb James lead vocal preset. And these 3 vocal presets will really help improve your vocals and just give you a better sound overall. So you can go check them out after this video. I'll put that link as the first one in the description. But yeah, anyways, without further ado, let's get right into this tutorial. Okay, so before we get into actually mixing the vocals, it's very important to understand why those modern pop sounding vocals sound the way they do. So as you can hear in a lot of modern pop songs, the vocals are really on top of the mix and they're the first thing you hear. And they have a lot of clarity, which is very important to take into account when we start mixing these vocals. So yeah, very clear and kind of enhanced vocals is what we're going to be aiming for with this mix. But we still want the vocals to sound very human-like and not have like a ton of electronic effects that are going to take away from the natural sound of the vocal, I guess. It's just going to be enhanced to the point where it's on top of the mix and it gives it a very clear and distinct sound. So yeah, once we know what we're kind of aiming for with the mix, we can start mixing. So yeah, what you're going to want to have first is just a raw vocal recording. This is mine right here.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh, I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
As you can hear right now, the vocal feels very muffled and unclean right now, which is kind of the exact opposite of what we want. We want a very clean and clear vocal. And as you can hear, a lot of the notes are off. So right here, I'm going to go down to the mixer and create a new track right next to the recording track. I'll just name this one mix because that's where we're going to put the mix onto. And then I'm just going to route my recording track to the mix track only. And then the first thing that we're going to add is an auto tune since some of those notes are off. And all you have to do for this is just know the key of your song. And the way you can figure this out is you can search up song key finder just in any web browser and something should come up that will help you find the key of your song. But yeah, anyways, we're going to put the key of the song right in here into the plugin. It's very simple and it's going to give us the notes that we need. Okay, so right here, I think this is the key of the song. And then for the retune speed, what I'm going to do is it's a little bit fast right now. As you can hear, it does sound pretty robotic.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head.
So I'm going to turn this down a little bit, probably to about a little bit above medium is where I usually put it for my vocals. But since it's going to be a little bit more of an enhanced vocal, I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh, I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
Okay, so I think that sounds pretty good. And then the next thing that we're going to add, and if you've seen my past videos, you know this is what I always add next, is going to be an EQ. So as this raw vocal right now is pretty muffled, like I said before, we're going to make sure that with this first EQ, we take out a lot of those frequencies that we don't want, which will include the muffled ones and the low rumbly frequencies that we just don't want. So what I'm going to do with this EQ is I'm just going to start left to right with these knobs and cut out frequencies that I don't want. So for the very bottom one, what we're going to do is create a high pass. Now what this is going to do is just completely chop off any of these low and rumbly frequencies at the bottom that we just don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the vocal with the beat and cut it out until it sounds good.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh.
So just to give you an example of what this EQ is actually doing right here is if I cut it out all the way up here, you're going to hear that the vocal has no bass to it.
I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh.
So as you can hear, that's cutting out way too much of the low end. So we got to find the sweet spot down here and make sure the vocal sounds good with the beat.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh, I'm waiting here, I'm not scared. As long as you're right by me, tear me apart, yeah, tear me apart, yeah.
Okay, so I think that sounds pretty good right there. And then like I said before, we're just going to go left to right and tweak each knob. So what I'm going to do with these next 4 knobs right here is I'm going to sweep through and find frequencies that I just don't like. So let's do that right here.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh.
So as you can hear, there's a little bit of like a boxy frequency right there that I just don't want in the mix. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag that down and cut it out just ever so slightly because we don't want to subtract too much. We just want to turn it down and put it below the other frequencies.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh.
So that's pretty good right there. And then we're just going to keep doing the same exact process with the rest of these knobs.
Uh-oh, I wanna get in your head. Uh-oh, I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
So right there, we're just going to cut that frequency out. And again, to explain what exactly I'm doing with these knobs where I'm just cutting out the frequencies is we're cutting out those frequencies that we don't want and the ones that maybe muffle up the vocal and maybe some of the frequencies that just make the vocal sound less clear. So this is really going to help bring us to that modern pop sound. So again, I'm going to move on to the next knob right here.
I wanna get in your head.
So right there, that's just a frequency that I don't want. So again, I'm going to cut that out.
I wanna get in your head. I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here.
Right there doesn't sound good, so I'm going to cut that out as well.
I wanna get in your head.
Okay, so now that we've cut out a lot of the frequencies that just stand out in the mid area, once we get to the high part, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the far right knob right here. And what we're going to do, instead of subtracting it, we're going to boost it. Now, what this will do is, since it's in the higher end of the frequencies, it's actually going to give it more clarity, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to boost this until it sounds good.
I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared. Long as you're right by me, tear me apart, yeah, tear me apart, yeah.
But you really do have to be careful with boosting this, because when you boost it, you're going to bring out some of those high frequencies that you're not going to want and the ones that are going to sound harsh to the ear. So you got to be careful when boosting. Make sure that you're boosting enough to gain some of that clarity that you want, but also not too much to the point where you're boosting some unwanted frequencies. So yeah, I think that sounds pretty good right there. And then what we can do with this last knob is, like I just said, some of those frequencies that we don't want in the high end are going to be boosted. So I'm going to use this last knob to cut out one of those frequencies that I just don't want.
I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared. Long as you're right.
As you can hear right there, that's a very harsh frequency that is probably not pleasant to most ears. So I'm just going to turn that down.
I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
Okay, so I think that's about it for the first EQ. And if you want to hear the difference, that EQ took the vocal from this
I wanna get in your head.
to this.
I wanna get in your head.
So as you can hear, it's not the biggest difference in the world, but we are moving towards a more clear and enhanced pop vocal. So that is exactly what we are going for. Okay, so now after cutting out some of those frequencies and boosting others, we are going to have to use a plugin to level out all the levels of volume within this vocal. So what we're going to use to attack this problem is a compressor. Now, what this compressor is going to do, like I just said, is it's going to take out those highest levels of volume and bring them down so that the recording is the same level all the way through. So the way I like to do my compressors is I turn the ratio to about 4:1 right there, not too high, and then I play with the threshold until you can start to hear it acting on those peaks of volume.
I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
Okay, so I think I hear it affecting the vocal at about negative 13.4 decibels right there. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it. And then for gain, I think I'm just going to leave it at 0. And then attack and release relatively low because I don't want it to hold on to the vocal for too long. So yeah, that's literally all you have to do for the compressor. In its simplest form, a compressor is easy, but once you start getting into like parallel compression and other kinds of compression, it can get a little bit more complicated. But right now we're going to keep it simple. And since it's going to be a pretty simple and straightforward mix, this is all we need for compression right now. And then what we're going to do next is use a plugin that was going to really enhance the vocal, and that is called the Sound Goodizer in FL Studio. Now, if you're not working in FL Studio, you might not have this plugin, but you can look up other vocal enhancement plugins that will work just about the same. Yeah, but anyways, what this plugin is going to do is it's really going to enhance the vocal and bring out the brightness of the vocal and make it sound a little bit more clear. So I'll show you exactly what I mean by that.
I wanna get in your head.
So as you can hear, the farther I turn this up, the more enhanced the vocal becomes. So we don't want it this much, but I think I'm going to turn it to about 25% right here just to give it a good clear sound.
I wanna get in your head.
So I think I like the way that sounds. So yeah, that's literally all we're going to do for that plugin right there. And now that we played with the gain a little bit there and some of those frequencies got turned up when we added that enhancement, we are going to have to add another EQ on top of that just to balance it out a little bit. So all I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to play the vocal and find, again, those frequencies that I just want to take out. So you don't have to go too crazy with the second EQ. It's just a little bit more of a balancing EQ. You're not subtracting as much as we did in the first EQ.
I wanna get in your head.
So again, just finding frequencies that I don't like. So that one right there didn't sound pleasant, so I'm going to turn that down. And this also really does a good job of cleaning up the vocal as well and making it sound more clear and getting us closer to that modern pop sound.
I wanna get in your head.
So yeah, just keep going on with the rest of these knobs right here and do the exact same process.
I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
And another thing to note when doing this type of EQ is some frequencies will be harsher than others, like this one right here under the yellow knob. As you can hear, it hits a little bit harder in the ear, so some of them you might have to turn down a little bit more than others. But yeah, it's kind of just a trial and error thing and just practicing with EQ more and just knowing exactly how you want it to sound. So I'm just going to keep going. So right there, that's another pretty harsh frequency, so I'm going to turn that one down a little bit more as well.
I wanna get in your head.
And then up here in the high end, since we only cut out one frequency in the high end in the first EQ, we are going to have a little bit more work to do right here. So I'm going to cut this one out. As you can hear, it's pretty harsh.
I wanna get in your head.
Okay, so I think that sounds pretty good for that second EQ. And then since we did mess with the gain levels a little bit too with the sound goodizer, we are going to have to add another compressor to help, again, balance it out and make the vocal a little bit more clear and not pound super hard in our ears. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to do the exact same thing I did with the first compressor. I just might not turn the threshold down as much because we don't want it to affect the vocal as much. Just a little bit more of a balancing compressor. So let's play the vocal and then again play with the threshold until it just barely starts to affect the vocal.
Get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
So I think I start to hear the compressor affecting the vocal at about negative 11.6 decibels. Again, it's not going to be as much as the first compressor because we already compressed it one time. So you're not going to have to turn the threshold down as much on the second compressor. And then yeah, a couple more plugins we can add just to do some finishing touches on this vocal would be the limiter. So yeah, once we go to presets right here, we can go to noise gate. And basically what a noise gate does is it cuts out any unwanted background noise in the recording that you just want to completely cut out. So we're going to set the threshold pretty low right here because we don't want to cut out any of the vocal, but we do want to make sure that that background noise is completely cut out.
I wanna get in your head.
So pretty low right there. I think that sounds pretty good. And then the last finishing touch that we're going to add right here is a de-esser. And what we can use in FL Studio is a plugin called Maximus right here. So yeah, we just got to go to presets and hit de-esser narrowband. And what this is going to do is it's really going to turn down the S's, T's, and P's in the vocal that are pretty harsh. So all we have to do is just turn this down a little bit.
I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
Now, this isn't necessary. It's just a finishing touch that I like to add. And I think it's nice because it really balances out the clarity levels of the whole vocal. So yeah, if we backtrack, all those plugins took my vocal from this
I wanna get in your head.
to this.
I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
So you can really hear a big difference from before that really muffled and kind of muddy vocal that we had to now a very clear and crispy enhanced vocal that could be used very well in modern pop songs. So yeah, after you're done with the basic mix, it is important to add other effects like a reverb track right here and another parallel compression track, which is basically a separate track with a compressor on it where you crank the gain and then crush the threshold, which basically doubles the vocal and gives it a lot more volume so it can really sit on top of the mix like I said before. And then on this one I also added another sound goodizer just to give it a little bit more enhancement. And then my reverb track, it really just has the reverb on here, and here are my reverb settings. So yeah, I have multiple videos showing how I do these tracks right here, so if you want to check those out you can. But yeah, also these extra effects can help enhance your vocals a little bit more and give them a little bit more of that poppy sound. So yeah, you can play around with different effects that you like and really just shape your vocal into that modern pop sound that you really want. So yeah, with the whole basic mix that we just did and a couple other of effects, this is what it sounds like.
I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.
So yeah, a pretty big difference right there, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So yeah, that's my whole tutorial on how to mix very modern, poppy sounding vocals. Again, if you're really into the idea of improving your vocals and improving your overall music, then you should check out my website where I have 3 available vocal presets. One of them is completely free for you guys to download. And yeah, also comment below other ideas you guys have for other presets I could add on my website. I would really appreciate it. Again, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.
I wanna get in your head. I'm waiting here, I'm not scared.